But as you heard, I think earlier in this hour, we went to my colleague, LBC reporter Charlotte Lynch, who was tracking their progress, or rather slow progress, through central London. We go back to Charlotte now. Where are you, Charlotte?
Nick, just marching around Trafalgar Square. These protesters say they're not going anywhere. There are over 100 of them out around central London locations, Parliament Square and Waterloo, just two of them. In addition to this location at Trafalgar Square, they're slow marching in the road, blocking traffic, which is crawling behind them, behind their orange banners as they're chanting, you'll be able to hear, about the climate crisis. They're shouting things like, we do not like disrupting you. That is their message to the public. But they say they believe they have to do this, and they have vowed to do this every day until the government makes what they deem to be a meaningful statement on the climate crisis. Now, of course, it's causing lots of people to be backed up in this traffic, people getting to work on buses, in taxis, and lots of tradespeople too. I've spoken to one of them who's been caught up in the disruption this morning.
I'm just working, yeah, and they're not letting us through. As long as they're moving, it's all right, but I just want to get to work, you know what I mean? I understand their point, I just want to go.
What do you think about them?
Listen, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's allowed to put an opinion. I just want to go to work, you know what I mean?
Well, the police are here on scene, directing traffic around the demonstration as best as they can. The protesters are on the move, so there's actually nothing illegal about what they're doing at the moment. They're not using their usual tactics like gluing themselves down into the road. They're slow marching around Trafalgar Square and dozens other locations, around 7 other locations across central London.
LBC Charlotte Lynch reporting from central London, and we will, of course, keep an eye on that demo. We've already taken calls from somebody who was virtually the first vehicle behind them, so if you want to give me a call, do. Let's talk about protesters with Eric, who's in Bedford. Eric, your reaction to this? Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Nick. We spoke last week.
Right.
I mean, one of the key things I wanted to say is, you know, there's been a lot of criticism about all this gluing down, climbing bridges, etc. So Extinction Rebellion this time said, well, we'll do something peaceful. And just engage lots of organisations. And they did it this weekend. And where's the reporting? If it's bad news, report it. If you do what people ask and have a peaceful demonstration, there is no reporting at all.
Tell me what you'd report. Tell me what you'd report.
So what I would ask, Nick, is if you can, is get a politicians on and say, look, there's all these people protesting in a peaceful manner. Why don't you ask them the questions? What are they doing about it?
But we know what they're doing.
That's all been asked.
But
nothing.
But hold on. We know what they're doing.
Nothing.
We do know what they're doing. Their claim is that the government is not moving quickly enough, that it's still allowing licences to be put out there for fossil fuel exploration.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, no, hold on. Stop shouting. So we know what they're doing. So there's no point. The idea of news is it's something new that you hear. So a demonstration taking place, one of many countless demonstrations where people are saying the government's not moving quickly enough, it should be moving faster, the issuing of licence is impairing the planet, we need to speed this up, we've only got until 2030. We know that all already. So why would you cover it?
Well, why do you cover it? The whole point of all of this is to raise awareness and raise it. And you said they know it all.
All my listeners are aware of the objectives.
But no action. Sorry to talk over you, Nick. Sorry to talk over you. But there's no action being taken. Really no action being taken. And the only time it is bad news is reported. And they say, don't do that. Do something peaceful. Nothing happens.
But, Eric, my listeners can't effect the action. What you or your colleagues should do is run for Parliament, and upon election, then you really can influence things.
Absolutely, and I don't disagree with that.
Yes,
I don't disagree with that at all. But in the meantime, you know, we have politicians which are elected there, which cannot do anything. And all I ask is LBC and others, when you have the politicians, you have politicians this morning, and just say to them, what are you doing about it, guys? Come on.
But I'll tell you what they say. We are ahead of other countries globally. Britain is a world leader in trying to bring around exploration of other forms of power. We have moved quicker than any other countries, and we're a signatory to the latest pact from
And we are the world leader in financing fossil fuel exploration around the world. And, you know, Anglo-American in South America, you can go on about these sort of things, where we invest.
But all these arguments are so well rehearsed, aren't they? And so, lastly, and I appreciate you're not doing it today, but I don't see why you stop people trying to get round Trafalgar Square, how that's going to help your cause.
It's trying to get in the news and the media to raise the awareness and actually get some reaction You know, I mean, that's what it's all about, is to get some action. And I appreciate that the gentleman you had on the radio and just wanted to get to work. Well, I do appreciate that. But it's just frustrating, you know, that the politicians, Sunak, why couldn't he have just stopped?
No, he...
And stopped at the stage.
Eric,
just took the stage and said a few words.
Because someone would glue themselves to him. You can't let...
No, this weekend was not about gluing.
I'm sorry, they would. Look, I don't agree. I've added the back actually. But it's 60,
all right, well, thanks for your time anyway.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's 61 officers minimum that were minimum. That's allowing 2 per car. It might have been more. And funny you would say that, Eric, because another person I cover, Colin. Colin says, I live in London. I've seen the Prime Minister drive past before, but he only had 3 Range Rovers then. Why didn't he stop and try and talk to the people? Colin, for the very reason that, I say again, someone would have padlocked themselves to the Prime Minister, someone would have glued themselves to the Prime Minister. I don't for one moment suggest there would have been any physical violence. I don't believe that of these protesters for a moment. But it is like a cult, remember these folk, a cult, it is cultish. So, yeah, you will run up and you will try and glue yourself to the Prime Minister. And if you don't get the PM, well, you'll glue yourself to a couple of his protection officers. And then, obviously, he's down a couple of protection officers and then you've got a nightmare on your hands. Mark's in Dundee. Mark, good morning. Your reaction to that heavy policing of the Prime Minister?
Yeah, no, I think it's proportionate in a sense that everything's intel-based when it comes to response. It's intel-based when it comes to... So you don't know what the specific threat is. And if there's an ongoing protest that's happening at a time, you don't know what the specific intelligence is that's come through to say what the response is. Now, this morning we're saying there's over 100-plus protesters in the middle of London. Now, if you count the numbers, you're saying 61. If you're saying there's 100-plus protesters, that's 2 protesters per police officer that's following.
You've got 6 Range Rovers. You can drive him out of there in no time.
Well, does he travel with that every single day?
No,
does he travel with that? No, he
normally,
doesn't.
I think normally it's 3, I think, maybe 4.
Yeah, so they're responding to a specific threat. Now, we don't know what that intelligence is, and we would never know because intelligence is obviously kept
Indeed. Well,
behind.
We better have a platoon of Marines behind him as well at that argument.
Well, whatever the threat is, whatever the threat level is, you respond to it. Now, they've obviously had information that says that there is a specific threat, whatever that may be, to increase the presence that's going with him. So it's something that you or I, and none of us will ever know exactly what that threat is, because intelligence is obviously...
You don't have a problem. You don't think 61 officers, lastly, Mark, is a little OTT, over the top. You don't think that?
I don't know what the threat is.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. I just want to quickly read this email from Pat, who says this is reminiscent of the Norman Wisdom film On the Beat. Do you remember that one when all the police officers go running around the roundabout and old Norman is blowing the whistle or something like that? I'd forgotten that. It is similar, Pat. Thank you for that. All right, the music means the conversation must move on. Today's the day.